fall semester?
This
or
is
summer
all year long.
Oh, this is all year long. So they're not in summer school. It's not really fall semester.
No, they're stuck with me all year long, and we started a little early because we're moving to a new facility in January.
Okay, all right. So
we're in a trailer. I didn't say that.
In introductions, I think I hope everybody knows where Kenya is. We are on the equator in East Africa, so we are right on the Indian Ocean. We're neighbors with Somalia. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, neighbors with Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, that's South Sudan now, and Uganda and Tanzania. We have Lake Victoria, which is a major, freshwater base. When you think about freshwater issues around the world, we have one of the big freshwater resources. We have the Rift Valley, which is a great, geographical feature in Eastern Africa, all the way from Tanzania, Kenya to Ethiopia. We have a bunch of rivers, and we also have lots of wildlife in parts of the country, in Kenya, but also in our neighboring countries. So those, I think, would be the starting point of the geography. In terms of the people of Kenya, we have a diversity. We have like 43 language groups, ethnic groups in Kenya. We have people of different religions, African religions, people of Islamic faith, Muslims, Hindu, Sikh, Christians, a few Jews. So that's where we are religiously. Politically, we have two main political coalitions. One is center-right, conservative, pro-business, and one is center-left, more towards socialist, things like environment, women's rights, education, housing, affordable housing, employment for people. So that's where I belong. I'm in one of the political parties, and I'm serving my first term in parliament. I got elected in 2013, and I'll be there until 2017. I have to seek re-election. If I get re-elected in 2017, I'll serve until 2022. So that'll be 10 years. It's like being in the US Congress in Washington, DC, but your congressmen serve every 2 years, and then they are looking for money to be re-elected. So no sooner have they arrived in Washington and they're looking for new money for the re-election. Our system, I think, is a little bit better because we have 5 years and you can spend some time focusing on pushing your agenda and serving the people. And then you can think about re-election. You always have to think about it, but you can compete for election really in the last year. So that, I think, is a major difference. I went to school in New York for my undergraduate, St. Lawrence University. And after St. Lawrence, I went to Georgetown University in Washington, DC. And Mr. Goldberg also went to Georgetown for his law degree. So go Hoyas. We taught together at the Potomac School and brought students to Africa. He took students to Ethiopia and to Kenya with me, and we stayed in touch. So it's great to be speaking with you guys. I love North Carolina. I don't know how many of you support Duke and how many of you support UNC Chapel Hill in basketball, but that I'd be interested to know when you come to ask your question, tell me if you belong to Duke or to UNC. So with that,
some like UNC State too. So.
Oh, some also like UNC State. All right, well, there you go. You can tell me which teams you like. But yeah, I know North Carolina for the barbecue. I've been there. And we actually had a few years ago students from Kerry Academy come to Kenya, and they were very good ambassadors. They came to volunteer in Kibera. So I think I'll stop my introduction there. President Obama was here a few weeks ago, so I hope you're aware of that. And we're still digesting his visit and how he responded. It was exciting. It was historical, from the most silly things like people being excited about the specifications of his car, the Beast, his limousine. That was very special for people here. Coming in Air Force One, that was historic. And or, there's a lot of attention paid to things like that. In terms of the substance, I'll tell you, no, not really. There is no new big investments and engagements. China has real money. So China can build a highway that's 50 or 100 kilometers. That's 80 miles, 100 miles. And they build it, and we need it. But the US, if we need a highway that's 80 miles or 100 kilometers or something, the US just won't have the money. So that's interesting. Although I don't want to say the US is completely doing nothing here, the US has been helping a lot with healthcare for HIV/AIDS. That has been a huge program, giving treatment and drugs that enhance people's lives. But there's a lot of competition from China. So people love the US. Any Kenyan you talk to would want to come visit the US. They think US is heaven. So I know the US is a great country, but it's not paradise. But a lot of Kenyans would love to come to the US, and they think it's a land of opportunity, great education, great opportunities. So that's that. Not as many would want to go to China, but on the political class and investment, right now, China is the biggest. So we have to deal with that for what it is. The US is working with our military, which there's great interest in fighting the war on terror, against Al-Shabaab in Somalia. But we actually get a lot of donated US equipment from the leftovers, hand-me-downs, when you've got Humvees from Iraq and Afghanistan that are not going to be sent back to the US. I think they refurbish them somewhere in Kuwait and put them on a ship, and they donate them to the Kenyan military. So we are a good recycling destination for American military waste or military surplus equipment. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, but I have a lot of students from Kibera who would like to go to the US. So there you go.
So I think what we're gonna do is have students, we have a sort of order of questions, but we may get some folks asking follow-ups as well. But we were gonna ask a little bit about you personally, and then about Kibera, where you represent and where you obviously know quite well. And then about Kenya, which you've just given us some insight into, and then maybe some global questions. Just the name of the course is Global Citizenship Seminar, and you certainly are a global citizen in my view. So what should we call you? I've not had an official conversation with you in this format, and the students asked, and I said I wasn't sure. Well, what should we call you?
Are you guys seeing the type-in window or something like that? I'll type the chat window.
Okay. Yep. Honorable. So Honorable Mr. Okoth, Mr. Honorable Kenneth Okoth, MP. All right. There we go. So I'm going to turn it over to the students. We've done some preparation the past couple days, and hopefully they'll have some good stuff. So Jack, did you have the first? Tell them to for UNC or state or whatever.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Sorry if I messed up your name. Honorable Kenneth Okoth, MP. Yes. I like NC State. And the first question we were interested in is just kind of background about you. A couple questions were like, what was your favorite food? What was your favorite food?
What was it like to grow up in?
Right, sorry. What was it like to grow up in Kibera? And we were also interested in what Starehe was like.
Okay. My favorite food in America, I'd say Pizza Hut. A pepperoni or meat lovers pizza, but also, yeah. Apart from Pizza Hut, who's the other person who delivers? The guys, they have like a blue and red something. They deliver Domino's.
Domino's.
Domino's pizza and wings for delivery at home, but also Pizza Hut. So yeah. But when I first came to America, actually, I wasn't used to eating cheese and I didn't like pizza. So that is a taste I acquired in your country. I learned how to like pizza there. So my favorite food in Kenya, we have goat. I don't know if you guys eat goat in North Carolina, but we have goat. It's a lean meat. Some people, if you're not used to it, think it's gamey. And we can eat goat stew with chapati. We also have something known as pilau, which you can look up later, but that's really good. The staple food, what most Kenyans eat, I don't eat that every day, but I ate it for every day that I was in high school, was something known as ugali, which is made of maize cornmeal. So, cornmeal, I'll ask Mr. Goldberg to describe it for you. You can Google it later. Basically, it's cornmeal mash of some kind. So you asked what was my favorite experience, or how was it at Starehe for me? So Starehe is a boys' boarding school, and so no girls. So that helped me to focus, but it was, I liked the balance of academic and extracurricular learning outside the classroom. So we had a lot of traditions. We had things like chapel. We had music and singing in assembly. We had theater, things like musicals, bands. I was in musicals, I was in a band. So those types of things which you're not doing for credit, you're just doing for fun. We had a lot of activities and clubs, and I can say, it was great. I learned how to read and write and to think critically. And I took a lot of classes, physics, chemistry, geography, history, religion. The most important thing that has helped me in life is just the skills that I learned outside class: public speaking, confidence, teamwork. So these are things that I think you have in the curriculum at your school too. And just being curious around the world. You have the internet today, which we really didn't have much internet early in the 90s when I was in school. I finished high school in 95. So we didn't have as much internet access. People, maybe you could do email, but not really. So the internet and capacity to communicate on Skype, Twitter, social media is really, really big. To go on YouTube. So those are my memories. I liked also that there were some teachers who were friendly and they didn't see themselves as purely there for the academic knowledge, but you could interact with them and become friends. And I've stayed friends with them even now. I've been out of high school 20 years. And so that to me is very important. There was community service. That was huge too. I really liked that. So community service and clubs. Debate club, I was in newspaper clubs. It's one thing to do writing for class. It's another thing to do writing for the school newspaper or for poetry, So it was good. I liked high school very much in that sense. But I also liked that I had my own bed, which when I had grown up in Kibera, I didn't. So when I went to high school, I had my own bed. That was very, very special. It was like, wow, yeah.
I think Matt has I think another student has the next question.
Hello, Honorable Ken Okoth. I was wondering, when you were growing up in Kibera, what did kids do in their free time when they weren't, I guess, at school or working?
I think I knew very few people. We just try to play and be kids. How do kids play today in the US? And everybody have an Xbox or Nintendo Wii or something. When I was a kid, I think somebody had a Tetris or something, Tetris. I think I know someone might have had like a Nintendo, a Sony, something they could hold in their hand. But most of the people, you had to go out and play with your friends, so we made soccer balls. out of trash bags or something like that, because affording soccer was not easy. The real soccer balls, it sort of gets expensive today to get a real soccer ball. But soccer was easy because you can play it anywhere. Just mark some hypothetical goals and get going. We also had skipping rope and jumping rope, a couple of games like that. We had a lot of games where people were tapping and clapping their hands and doing things like, that type of games. Singing and music, children could go to Sunday school and clubs that are related to their churches. So those were important. There were scouts in some of the schools. People could become scouts, including from elementary school, so that mattered. We didn't have a library in the community, so you'd have to borrow books from school if you were in good terms with your teacher, and they let you borrow some books, but mostly it was books related to the curriculum, not additional books. So that, I think, is how we spent most of our time. We had to be very creative, making our own toys. That was important. I think, you make a vehicle, you have to learn how to cut up things and make it up yourself. So that type of thing, I'm trying to think, what else did we do when we were young? God, we had to do homework.
Yes, sir.
We had to do homework and chores and homework, yeah. Helping at home was very important, whether we don't have laundry machines, so you have to do laundry by hand and press your clothes. Especially with the school uniform, that was important. I like the school uniform because it makes everyone equal. You did have to know who came from a very poor family and didn't have anything, and it gives a sense of belonging. You don't know, you guys are very free. You don't have a school uniform, so you're at a different place.
I think another student had a question.
Hi, Honorable Ken Okoth. I was wondering, throughout all of your education, who has been your favorite or your best mentor?
Ooh, there you go. Now I can see. For a moment it froze. I couldn't see you. Who's this? Who am I talking to?
What?
What's your name?
Gracie.
Gracie. Okay. My mentor, role model, you can Google him. His name was Geoffrey Griffin. He never married, and he was a founder of Starehe Boys Center. So he dedicated all his life to building this school from scratch. It was built in a time of, colonial conflict. If you do some research, it was a time when the Mau Mau fighters were doing, guerrilla war against the British government, the British Crown, which was the empire in Kenya, and we were looking for independence. So for him, as a white person, he was of European British descent, to start a center for young boys from African families to empower them through education. That was a very courageous act. And he emphasized again at the school, not just academic, but our responsibility and development as leaders. And I've seen that has benefited me. And always the message of giving back, that you're not on this earth for your own self, but you're here to give back and make society better for others. So that, I think, has stayed with me as an important lesson. And he was very strict, but also very focused and impactful in that sense. So I think he accomplished his life dreams and he sacrificed for it to build a top school. And that's something that I aspire to and admire, that somebody can do that. But there are many other people I admire, but I think if I had to give you one person, that would be him.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Gracie.
Back to you, Bart. Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you, Honorable Ken Okoth. I'm Jack, and I'm an NC State fan.
Aha.
My question to you is, how prevalent were NGOs when you were growing up in Kibera?
Well, when I was growing up in Kibera, not as much. In the 80s, we had a few. They were not necessarily international, but we had a few in the 80s. The NGOs started becoming important after about 1985, 1986. Before that, really, it was the government providing services such as education, vaccinations, healthcare, just all kinds of social services. But what happened, they were going from around 1985, 86, they had what the World Bank was calling the structural adjustment programs. So these structural adjustment programs basically was the government had to retrench a lot of employees who the government was employing, and a lot of the services that the government was involved in, transportation industry, railway, bus services. If you could imagine the state of North Carolina being in charge of Greyhound and the railway system and the phone companies, all were state property and state employees. Now, all of that had to be privatized. So in that adjusting of the structure of the economy, a lot of people lost their jobs, and the government didn't have enough money to take care of their needs. A lot of people became poorer, and that's where a lot of NGOs started coming in, trying to meet the gaps. So the NGOs in Kenya try to fill in the gaps of what the government is not unable to provide, and they have just kept growing and growing ever since. Some of them actually do very good work, and some of them not so much. But we have, like, out of you guys, UNC North Carolina, we have Carolina for Kibera, and they've been doing very good work here. So, yeah.
Okay. And also one more question I have would be, are there any NGOs that you would like try to recreate, or any NGOs that you want to see for a certain issue, or you would like to develop to solve a certain issue currently?
Off the top of my head right now, what I'm struggling with would be an NGO that brings sports. So beyond soccer, we have quite a few people doing soccer, but I want to do things such as tennis, basketball, which is not all the kids get access to. Okay, maybe golf, because, so I think an NGO that works in that angle, but that helps children with physical fitness and developing their talent in sport. Because the entertainment industry, the sports industry is very important. It's growing, and it's not everybody can go for academic careers and school-based education. We all need to learn how to read and write and do basic math and think critically, but other people have different talents in music, in sports, and I want to see that done. So I think for me, it'll be NGOs that expand on the extracurricular life of our children that I'd be very excited about. So that, you see, in the United States, what's his name? Like the baseball player or the basketball player, LeBron James. LeBron James is how old is he? 25. Can someone Google how old is LeBron James?
He's 30.
30.
So LeBron James is 30, and he's been playing basketball for how many years now?
Professionally 12.
For 12 years. So, from the first time he started playing basketball, he's been making more money than Barack Obama. So that's, to me, shows that sports, it's not for everyone, but it's an important industry. And we have a lot of runners in Kenya, maybe in athletics and things like that. I'd love to see an expansion of sports. That's a good question. And it's something that I'm thinking a lot right now about.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elena.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, has the food changed all that much in Kibera from when you used to eat things as a child, or has it become more limited to get food?
What's your team?
Oh,
And I don't have a team.
you're such a politician. You're such a politician. You're good with all the teams, right?
Sure.
Okay. You get all the votes. Has the food changed? Ooh, when I was in school as a little kid, I think they gave us a packet of milk, you know, like if you go to the store and you get little Tetra packs of milk or juice, something that size. They gave us that twice a week. And that pretty much was all the nutrition we got at school. These days, the children get a school lunch program in the public schools. And again, that's a very good one because part of it is coming from the Wild Food Program. And the Wild Food Program is part of the UN, which is supported, is supported by the US government. So USAID supports the Wild Food Program, and that helps a lot of children to stay in school and get nutrition. A lot of life has changed. So many things have changed, technology and information and cell phones, but a lot of people are actually poorer because of inflation. So you find more people at risk of starvation. The population has grown. More people are moving to the city. So that's a big thing that I would share as a concern here, that, children still are at risk of starvation. And at school, they eat something, but let me see what they call it. They eat githeri. That's what they call it in Swahili language and local languages. But they also eat something called bulgur, which I don't know the proper spelling of it. It's a mix of some kind. So check the spelling of that and you can see details of it later. But it's basically things that are easy to cook in a big, big pot for very many children, 500 children, 1,000 children. And yeah, it's repetitive. Sometimes they get rice and beans or rice and chickpeas or beans. That's common in the schools too. But where they are able to, they'll get vegetables and meat, and somebody might change the diet. But really, it is food that has to be served just one plate with one spoon. There you go, and you line up and you get it like a soup kitchen almost. That's what most of the children get at home. Enough, I think a lot of kids in the Kibera slums go hungry, but they might eat things like ugali. They might eat basic fish. There's a fish called omena, which is like sardines. It's like lake sardines from freshwater lakes. So that's one of the possible things that you'd see some of the kids might eat at home. Meat, rarely. They'll eat something known as matumbo. Did you say there's a Kenyan in your class right now? Matumbo is like...
Yeah, her name is Nina.
Okay, so she can tell you what matumbo is. There you go. Yeah. So those types of things are there. Oh, and vegetables. People eat a lot of cabbage and the kale, which here we call sukuma wiki. And you can Google and see that. There's actually someone on Twitter who's doing Kenyan foods. So yeah. So that's something interesting to think about.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you, Honorable Ken Okoth.
Thank you.
Yeah. Grinding down. We can sort of wing it from this point.
Hello, Honorable Ken Okoth.
Hello.
I'm Brian, and
Yeah.
based at, like NC State.
Yeah.
So I was doing some research yesterday, and I saw a page for this crisis that happened in like 2007 and 2008.
Yeah.
Could you sort of explain that and how that applied to you? And what it was like?
That's a complicated one to answer very easily and quickly in a few minutes. So ask me the question again. What are you asking exactly?
What was it like to live through that time period? Were you in Kenya at the time?
No. I was in the US. I was actually still teaching at the Potomac School.
Okay.
And so for me, my family was back in Kenya when they felt unsafe in Kibera because of violence even in Nairobi. And they wanted to go someplace else they could be safe. The only place they felt safe to go was to go to Tanzania, which is south of Kenya, about 3 hours drive to a place called Arusha. And there were refugees there, my mom, my brother, my sisters, nephews, and nieces, and they were there for a few months. And by the way, somebody had asked me about food. Sorry to be distracted, but somebody had asked me about food, and I've just posted. There's a hashtag called Kenyan Food Tuesdays. If you look it up on Twitter, you can see all the pictures of Kenyan food. I've posted the link there for you guys. But so it was tough because when you're personally involved and your people are at risk, you try to help as much as you can, and you worry for them from a distance. I still get very moved when I see stories of people fleeing their homes or their countries, refugees trying to cross the Mediterranean. It affects me and it drives the type of work that I do. The tension was between two major political parties, pretty much the breakdown we have of the political scene right now. And it broke down on ethnic coalitions and people fought. And what followed up was a government of national unity that brought both sides together to work together for 5 years before the next election. And there have been investigation and some courts that went to the International Criminal Court in The Hague in the Netherlands. And the US is not part of this court. So for what it's worth, I mean, we're trying to put an international system of justice for some of the countries, and Kenya is one of the members of this country. You have to sign a treaty to join it, and the US has not signed the treaty to join it. So that's what I would say about it. We've tried to go through a lot of national healing, because otherwise, if we had had a civil war and completely broken apart our country, it would take a long time to recover. As you see, when you had the Civil War in the United States, many years ago, before Mr. Goldberg and I were born, people have still yet to recover from that. So ours was really the beginning of a civil war, and we found a way for the international community to intervene. People like Kofi Annan, the US government was very involved, and it helped for us to be able to get out of that. So I say thank you for the US and for the outside powers that helped us to not go into complete civil war. And we're trying to rebuild the country now, and I'm happy I'm in a position to play a small part at the table. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question. It's a tough question, Matt.
Right. Thank you.
Hey, Honorable Ken Okoth.
Hello.
I'm Madison, and I'm a fan.
Duke. What's your team?
Duke University. Oh, wow. Okay. So the question we had was, after researching, we saw property ownership is different than here. So can you tell us like what property rights are in Kibera and like how you own something?
In Kibera?
Yeah.
Property ownership. In Kenya, we have two ways of owning property. So the first one we have is freehold, right? I've typed it out there for you. And then there's leasehold. Most of the time it's 99 years or 99 years or 999 years. Freehold means you actually own the property forever. 99 years means after 99 years, the government can say this land reverts back to us, so they can renew the lease. So you keep owning it and using it. After 999 years, I don't know who would be around that long. So that's interesting. But it is inherited from the British system. And we also have what is known as, we are working on it right now, is community land bill. This is something you can Google, which is not yet a law in Kenya, but that would give land to groups of people. Let's say they're pastoralists, nomadic people, where not every individual owns a piece of land, but the community as a whole owns a section of land that they can raise their livestock, they can migrate and move in, that type of thing. In Kibera, there's also something known as government land or public land, which is not private land. And so something like Kibera is government land. So nobody has a title to it, only the government, and then the government can decide what can be built within it. So basically Kibera, the closest thing you'd think about it, historically, the government had given it to one community, but never gave them a title deed. So because they never got a written title deed, their claim to the land ownership, was it ever transferred from being government land to private land on a leasehold? It's not clear. So what that means is they are struggling now to try own it. But you often need a title deed, pretty much. Not a lot of Kenyans have it, but a title deed is very important because you can take it to the bank and use it to get a loan and things like that. So most of the parts of Kibera, people don't have a title deed, so they can't build proper houses because it's the equivalent of saying you've come to the public park that belongs to the state or the county or to the city, and you've put up a temporary shelter. Now, if you start building a real house there, they might get upset. But even if you put a temporary shelter and you've lived there for 50 years, the government can still eventually come and move you out. So it's called the lack of tenure, security of tenure. That's important. Does that answer your question? I don't know if it's too technical, my answer or not.
Oh, that was great. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Honorable Ken Okoth. My name's
Hello.
Alex. So I was wondering exactly what kind of jobs residents of Kibera would get when they leave every day.
Economy of Kibera. That's a good Google topic in itself. There's a lot that goes on within Kibera. So people create their own jobs. They're not necessarily employed outside and providing market commercial opportunities to each other, so you could Google that up, the economy of Kibera. But there's a lot of things like small retail businesses. There's a lot of services like, hairdressing. You have to go to the barber, get a nice haircut, look clean. They're gonna get the hair made and pretty. In Kibera, we are actually very distinguished in all of Nairobi. We are distinguished for metalwork and sort of iron fabrication. So what I mean by that is things such as, like, you've got a frame for a bed, if you're making a desk, which the legs and part of it is going to be metallic, that all welding, that type of thing. If you buy a pickup truck and you want to add on to it a cover that you put on the tarpaulin, all types of things. If you're putting grills for your door or for your window or for your house, that type of thing, the people who work in Kibera are amongst the best. But we also have just a lot of market and trading, including second-hand clothes. So Kibera is a home of fashion in some sense in Nairobi. People are very creative in how they dress and what they wear. But there's also tailoring and making of African design clothes. That is very important. those new, but you can also get tailor-made suits. There's a lot of people who are very skilled to do things like that. When people go outside of Kibera, they do any other job. You know, they go to work in a bank, they work in a supermarket. A lot of them go to work in people's houses as domestic labor. So there'll be nannies, there'll be the maids doing the cleaning of the houses, there'll be cleaners in public, you know, in commercial buildings. They might be working as waiters and waitresses at restaurants. We also have people, you know, working in schools, educators, teaching. Yeah, the whole range of things that people can do. There's a lot of people who walk to work in the industrial area of Nairobi in the different industries. So that is important. Nairobi industrial area, I'll just do that. And linked to the Nairobi industrial area actually is something that you might want to look up, which is called AGOA, which is African Growth and Opportunity Act. That means that there's a lot of companies that work in what is known as export processing zones, and they make fabrics and textiles, jobs that used to be in North Carolina. Now they can make you nice things here in Kenya, and we ship them to be sold at Target or Walmart. Yeah, so AGOA, the main industry right now is textiles for export to US market. So those are the type of things people do. You know, there's a lot of people in Nairobi who need drivers, and a lot of people in Kibera who work as drivers. Yeah, that type of thing. There's Kenyans from Kibera who are policemen, soldiers, but a lot of the people go out to work in the neighborhood for the middle class and the upper middle class as domestic workers and helping the families of the people in the middle class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Megan, and I was wondering what you think the most pressing issue in Kibera is currently.
Okay, Megan, what's your team?
Oh, I don't have one.
Your what?
I don't have a favorite team.
No, yeah. You're not patriotic enough. US Americans, don't be patriotic. You must have a team. Anyway, think about it and get a team next March. And I'll tell you my team when it comes, apart from Georgetown. I'll tell you my North Carolina team. What do you think the most pressing need in Kibera right now? I would say quality housing, quality affordable housing. So that to me is, if we do, for instance, mixed income living communities, that would really change the face of Kibera in a way. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are living in houses that don't have proper sanitation. They have to share a drop-down latrine, pit latrine with many other families. We're trying to change that now. We're putting in sewage lines because it helps with hygiene and standard of living, controlling the spread of diseases, risks like cholera, diarrhea, you know, those types of things. So I think that's the biggest thing, moving to quality, affordable housing. If you want to do a little bit of research right now, going forward, you can look on a program known as KENSAP, which is Kenya Slum Upgrading Program. Mm. If you just Google that, you'll see a lot of information come up. It's a program that we've been working on with the UN, UNDP, UN Habitat, and the Kenyan government, and other people are interested. It's always a challenge. Countries such as Malaysia have managed to tackle their slums and lift their people out of poverty and build them better quality housing. There have been attempts in India, but it's never easy. It's never easy. It's not just come, oh, all right, here it's a technical solution, build the houses. There's social factors, there's anthropological factors, there's economic factors, there's political factors, all of those pieces. So It's not an easy problem to solve, but I think quality, decent housing, perhaps create a mixed income community. The beauty of Kibera, if you look it up in a map, is the location. And as they say in real estate, there's 3 words: location, 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 right? So we have the location, and we are right in the middle of the city. If you look on a Google map of Nairobi, you'll see we are surrounded by basically the rest of the city. And from our location, actually, it'll be very attractive. We are close to a lot of good things. But the irony is, although we're in the heart of the city in some sense, a lot of people are very isolated, and they're like not even in the city, and they don't experience the city at all. And they live all their life just within Kibera, which I think is a big shame.
Okay, well, thank you.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Their class leaves in 5 minutes. I know it's getting toward 9 o'clock. We really appreciate your time.
All right, so I'll answer the last ones quickly.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm a UNC and NC State fan, so I'm a little bit of both. But my question was, we've done some research in trying to find the population of Kibera, and the numbers were all different. So do you have a more exact number to tell us?
The population of Kibera, I would say people make it up for their own interest. If you want people to, if you want people to think, oh, Kibera is such a big problem, you you exaggerate the population, right? You make it up. So it's such a big problem, you have to give us bigger donations. So that's interesting. I've just Googled the population of Kibera there. It's not 1 million, that's a lie. Nairobi is about 5 million people, and not a lot of people in Nairobi. Okay. That is so funny to see what comes up on Google. The population, I would say we have 110,000 registered voters. So that means to be a registered voter, you have to be 18 and above. If we say out of that 110,000, there is in each family another 4 dependents or 3 dependents. So you think of the average family as 4 people, mother, father, 1 child under 18 or 2, that way, then families are larger than that. So I would multiply by 4, and we would get that to about 440,000, 450,000. That to me sounds like a total population estimate, which is reasonable, and it can make sense where people live. But I've seen estimates of very high, 1 million, 1.5 million. The government wanted a few years ago to say Kibera is very small. See, it's not a big problem, it's very small. It's not a big problem. So they said Kibera was only 170,000 people in the census, which cannot be true because we have a lot of young people in school and things like that. So maybe even my 450 is high. Maybe there are 400,000, but definitely more than 300,000. I don't think there are more than 500,000. But it is still a lot of people living in a very tiny space who for years have been neglected. And they live with a lot of problems. But Kibera, the slum, is not a problem. It is a solution. It is a place where people come to when they're starting their lives out of rural areas. They're looking for better life in the city, jobs, education. So Kibera is not a problem. It's a solution, but we have to make it a better solution so people live with dignity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So this has been great, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We have like just a minute left here, so I know that one of the students here has an entrepreneurial idea he's gonna send to you. I think he sent it to the your public Gmail account, and he'll try to follow up with you. But if students have some follow-up questions, could we make a list and send you a few, and you get back to us when you can?
Sure, we'll try. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking time this evening to work with us. I'll show you the group again, and they'll.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much, Ken. Honorable.
For Harry, Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.